All right, it is 12 o'clock, so we will go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, to the NNP Symposium. This is our third year at Central States. So we have people here watching in the room, and we also have viewers live online who are tuning in over Zoom. So this is the first presentation in this year's State Showcase series at Central States. Nebraska is the showcase state this year. Last year was Iowa. So we're going to kick things off with Nebraska. Talking about Omaha's Byron Reed collection at the Durham Museum in Omaha. Kristen Rowley will be our presenter. She is the collection manager at the Durham Museum. And a reminder for everyone watching online, we will be doing a Q&A at the end. You can send in your questions with the button at the bottom of your screen that says Q&A. For those in the room, obviously you'll ask questions by raising your hand. So we'll do that at the end. And if you are online, you can try turning on captions now. Zoom offers automatic closed captioning. So if you're having trouble understanding anything, give that a shot and we'll see how they work. Other than that, that's it for me. So I will turn it over to Kristen and I'll be back at the end for the Q&A.
Hello. As she said, my name is Kristen Rowley. I am going to talk to you today about, let me get to my next slide. Oh, it's thinking about it. It's another slide that says Omaha's Byron Reed collection. That is what I'll be speaking to you about today. So my name is Kristen Rowley. I'm the collection manager at the Durham Museum. I've been in this position for about 2.5 years, but I've been at the museum for knocking on 8 years now. The Durham Museum is a Omaha history museum. We are in an Art Deco train station that was built in 1931. We opened as a museum in 1975, so we are celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. And so we mostly focus on Omaha history as well as some train travel since we're at a train station. And we have a series of traveling exhibits. Like right now, we have an exhibit about Antarctic dinosaurs, but we are also home to the Byron Reed collection. So I'll go a little bit more in depth with that later. But the Byron Reed collection, since it is part of our museum, we are not looking to necessarily add or subtract to it. We are more available for researchers. So my purpose today is to really kind of give some broad strokes about what's in the collection. And then if there's anything that piques your interest, feel free to contact if you want me to take a look at something or would like to set up an appointment to come and research. And of course, come down to the Durham Museum and take a look at what's actually on display. But Byron Reed was a real estate agent, a collector, and philanthropist in early Omaha. He was born in 1829, died in 1891. We'll go a little bit more in depth with that later. But as a collector, he liked to collect mostly coins, but also books, manuscripts, documents, paper currency, things of that nature. And when he died in 1891, he gave the city of Omaha land for the first permanent public library, which he planned for an art gallery or museum to be run by the library, as well as his full collection. His son, Abraham Lincoln Reed, was able to go through and kind of choose what all went to the library, but the vast majority of his collection went to the Omaha Public Library and continues to be owned by the city. So it lived at the public library for almost 100 years. That picture at the top is from the 50s. So it had its own gallery in the public library where people could come and look at his collection. And then it was open to the public until the 60s. It was taken off display due to robberies and threats of robberies and just trying to get a little bit more off display. And then the collection was transferred to the Durham in 1989, and we opened a permanent exhibit. No exhibit's really permanent. And that exhibit that they're cutting the ribbon for then did close. We closed for renovations in 1995, and the collection was transferred to the Gerald Ford Conservation Center in town. And then it returned in 1999 with a new exhibit and storage space. And I'm going to talk to you about the collection through the lens of the current exhibit. So like I said, it's being preserved. So I just kind of want to go over the basic broad strokes of it so that people are familiar with what is in the collection. So this is a little bit about what the current exhibit looks like. You can see we have mostly his coins on display, as well as we have a large scale that is on loan from the Denver Mint. But it is largely coins. He has other things in his collection, but coins are much easier to display. They are much less affected by light than 18th century documents. So we'll walk in through the entrance to the exhibit. In this part, we learn a little bit about Byron Reed himself, as well as his life as a collector. So I'll go a little bit more in depth about him. Like I said, he was born in 1829 and he died June 5th, 1891. He was born in Darien, New York, and then he moved as a teen to Darien, Wisconsin. And then I believe it was probably a lot of people from Darien, New York, moving to Darien, Wisconsin at the time. As an adult, he worked as a telegraph operator and was a New York Tribune correspondent in Bleeding, Kansas, where he was part of some of the altercations that were happening there and had to flee in the night because they did not like that he was reporting with the newspaper. And so he moved to Omaha around 1856 to sell real estate. For reference, Omaha was founded in 1854. So there was a lot of real estate because there was a lot of empty land to be bought and sold. So that is a 1800s photo of his first real estate office. And then the one below it is a recreation from the 1930s. We had a celebration in town celebrating the Golden Spike of in 1869. And so in 1939, they decorated town to look like the 1860s, or how they saw the 1860s. He owned and operated his real estate business for most of the rest of his life. He also served as on the city council. He was city clerk. I believe he was also county clerk. He just did a lot of just general business. Within his collection, we have a lot of things from people's estates. So he was handling people's receipts and payments, lots of correspondence regarding buying and selling land. And he ended up donating land for the city's first cemetery, and then I believe established the second cemetery as well. But in his free time, he collected coins, currency, books, manuscripts, as well as newspapers. It seems he was most interested in the coins, and the coins are what he's most well known for nowadays. In 1891, they said that he had been collecting for about 40 years, but had gained the most valuable in the last 2 decades. It's believed that his father actually started the collection and gifted an unknown amount of it to Byron Reed. And then in the last 20 years or so of his life, he really added to that. Some of his premier pieces that he's known for from, sadly, about 12 months before he passed away in 1890. According to his obituary, he had one of the top 5 or 6 collections at the time of his death. And then this is just a nice little letter from Benjamin Harrison about a document signed by Governor Benjamin Harrison, who I believe was his great-grandfather. And he says, "I should think Mr. Reed's library would be a very interesting place." So he was known at the time for his large library. You can see a picture of his library here. Our current exhibit is designed to kind of mimic that. So we have a similar stained glass window, as well as the wood that's carried throughout the exhibit. So that was his personal library in the 1880s, and then what part of our exhibit looks like now. And that will lead me to his books. A lot of the books aren't on display. They kind of are in that exhibit, but those are more for kind of set dressing than to display the books. And most of the books we have in the collection are part of his personal library. So there are definitely books he actively collected for the collectability of them, but a lot of them are just ones that he collected because he was a well-read man. So we have, like this says, Recent Polar Voyages. He wasn't collecting that as a collectible book. He likely just wanted to read about recent polar voyages. Same with the one above it is from, or next to it is from Graham's Magazine, which was a gentleman's magazine at the time. And that is actually a publishing of The Murder of Rue Morgue by Edgar Allan Poe. The bottom picture is the vault. So the coins are kept in the 2 coin cabinets, and then the rest are all books. All of the boxes are filled with about 1 to 2 books. Hundreds upon hundreds of boxes holding the 1,600 books in the collection. One of the highlights that I wanted to mention today specifically is his new numismatic catalogs. So he would, there weren't a lot of auctions going on in Omaha, obviously. It was quite a small town at the time. So he would subscribe to auction catalogs in New York and Philadelphia. And so he kept quite a few of them. So we now have them in our collection. Fewer of the just kind of standard, this will be in the auction, continue to exist because he would cut out the descriptions for coins that he actually purchased and then keep them with the coin. So the books aren't very useful anymore. But then he would also purchase price realized Catalogs, since they didn't have the annual coin publishers saying what coins were worth, you would have to just follow what was going on in the auctions. So he would order those. This, I'll mention it later, but this is from the Parmalee auction in 1890 when he purchases $1804, which is what he's arguably most well known for. That's there in the center with that check mark. He purchased it for $570 in 1890. So I just love that we can put the coin with the document that goes with it. But that has all of the prices realized for everything in the Parmalee auction. And then this is just an example of other numismatic catalogs in the collection. So there are quite a few of those to show what collecting was like in the 1800s. I also just want to highlight a book that he very obviously collected, as it is a medieval gradual. So it's one of our medieval books in the collection. So it was used at a monastery in Italy, what became Italy. I believe it was outside of Milan. And about 10 years ago, we had a collection of interns that studied this and digitized all of it. So all of the pages of the gradual are available on our website. I'll reference our website a couple of times. When I say that, I mean our photo archive website. So we have a large photo archive at the museum. We have 3 collections: photo archive, our permanent collection, and then the Byron Reed. And the photo archive is a collection of about 1 million photographs that we are slowly but surely digitizing and getting on our website. And so along with all of those photographs, we also have pieces from the Byron Reed collection. So the medieval gradual has its own collection with each page. And then we're also getting his documents and currency up on there as well. But all the pages of the gradual are available and digitized, and it continues to be on display. Just it is closed. We don't want light to damage the beautiful pages. You can also see there's a note card type piece pasted on the inside of the cover. It says that he bought that Mr. Reed bought it at auction, and that it had been stolen during a war in Italy. And during our work, we realized that that was not true. We think it was kind of a story drummed up to raise the price at auction if people thought it had a fun story with it. And then we'll move on to a little bit more of the coins. So in our permanent exhibit, you can see down below, we call it the story of money. So it is the history of money throughout the years. So we start with parts of Mr. Reed's Ancients collection. So the one I have highlighted here is the turtle coin, is what we call it. It's from 525 BC. It's the oldest piece of the collection. And then he has ancient, medieval, and Byzantine coins. It's only about 200 or so coins. There was a large sale of part of the collection in 1996. And the ancients, unfortunately, were hit quite hard with that sale. But we have about 14 or so on display of the 200 in the collection for his ancient coins. And then the next section is about minting. So it's, again, kind of going along with the story of money, talking about minting coins. Most of the areas I'm going to talk about specific sub-collections of his larger collection. This one doesn't. This has a few of our own Durham Museum coins that we've purchased, and just kind of money after 1891, because since he passed away in 1891, we don't have anything in his collection from the 20th century. It also has some of these mint errors, so you can see that they got either stuck during the process or were double printed, but you can see that they're in our collection, we refer to them as bottle caps. I don't think that's entirely accurate, but they resemble kind of a bottle cap. So we have some of his mint errors on display there. And then we also have in our permanent area some of his medals. He has 39 assay medals, including his own. He was on the commission in 1890, and 82 of his mint medals. So over there, I have his assay medal. He collected, obviously, more than just his own. Including he has four from 1880, 3 of them in bronze and 1 in silver. So he would contact other collectors to purchase those. And then he also has down at the bottom there the Libertas Americana medal, which was designed by Benjamin Franklin. It's the first depiction of Lady Liberty in relationship to the United States. And so he has one of those, and that kind of connects to our document collection. So along with that medal, we have down here, this one that's in 2 columns, is a pamphlet that was written by Benjamin Franklin in both French and English that describes the medal and talks about the meaning behind the medal. There is believed to have only been about 300 printed, and we believe this is the only one in the United States. I think the rest, I would assume, are in France, but this is the only one in the United States. But so this is the kind of documents that he has in his document collection. There's over 3,200. There's more and more every day because a lot of them are cataloged as, 27 city warrants. Well, that's not one document, that's 27 documents. So it is constantly expanding. And some of them are things that he actively would have collected at auction. So he was particularly interested in the signers of the Declaration of Independence, U.S. presidents, and Civil War generals. Like I said, he lived from 1829 to 1891. So the Civil War was a very big moment in his life. He did not serve in the Civil War, but based on his collection, it was of great interest to him. He also, like I said, had a son named Abraham Lincoln Reed. He's a big fan of Abraham Lincoln. And then he also has a great deal of playbills. Those business documents I mentioned that weren't necessarily collected, they were just part of his personal papers. And now they offer a lot more interest to us. They offer a lot more interest to us now than they probably did back then. They probably weren't as interested about receipts for the burial of someone or the purchase of a cemetery plot, but we find them interesting. And these we're also adding regularly to our website. So you can find those on our photo archive, including the one about the Libertas Americana medal. But the ones that I have on this page are that blue one at the top left, that is Charles Dickens. And then it's a note signed by Charles Dickens. He's the CD. And then up here on the right, talking about the ones that, based on how they're cataloged, we don't fully know what all we have sometimes. This was cataloged as 3 documents related to George Washington. They're actually receipts from Byron Reed purchasing objects related to George Washington. So this is his receipt from a auction where he purchased a ledger, letters to George Washington, and I believe that last one says license. So it has we have his paperwork reserving his seat, his receipt of down payment, and how much he would eventually owe for those pieces. We also have down here a telegram saying that a telegraph from Senator Charles Manderson saying that he was suggested him for the 1890 Assay Commission. We have a lot of letters related to that. A lot of people wrote him very quickly to tell him to prepare and that was coming up. So those are some of the more personal documents. I was trying to find ones that were kind of related to his coin collecting. We don't have a ton. He was obviously in contact with a lot of dealers in New York and Philadelphia to be able to purchase these things, but unfortunately, a lot of that correspondence did not make it into his collection, but a lot of it is more stuff that he was actively collecting. We also have some of his paper currency. So it's about 700 banknotes, and 175 of them are from New York State. For most of his collection, if there is something that can be from a specific state, he will have a lot of it from New York. He was originally from there and was clearly very interested in what was going on there. And there's also some from countries around the world, all of the states of the Union. These are also available on our website. The one of most note is this 75-cent Republic of Texas note signed by Sam Houston. We believe it's the only one still in existence. But so that is some of the fractional currency that he has as well. He also has a great deal of political badges. So these are coins or other pieces related to politicians, sometimes for presidents after they've served or during presidential races. A lot of it is Washingtonia. So 67 of the 214 pieces are specifically about Washington, including the 1792 Getz half dollar. He has 1 in silver and then 2 in copper. So he was obviously trying to get as many of those as he could. We have 1 on permanent display, and then the silver one is in storage in our collection. But I got some pictures of it there. And then this is our highlights case. Sometimes we call it our treasure case. So these are the 5 coins that are always on display, and they're kind of pulled out of their sub-collection. As I was going through all of those cases, a lot of them highlight the sub-collections. These were kind of pulled out partially so you can see both sides. Most of the exhibit, you can only see one side of the coin, except on the photograph. but so these are kind of highlighted on their own. The first is his $1804. That is what he is typically most known for. He purchased it at the 1890 Parmalee sale, like we saw earlier, for $570. According to his son, someone tried to sell him another one, and it took him looking at it under a microscope to see it was actually at 1809 that they had been had defaced to make look like 1804. It's a proof 64 by ICG, and it's one of the class 1 coins. I have never been able to hold it, such as this man is. He works at the library in the 1970s. His name was Milton Abrahams. And so there he is with the coin. We currently have it, as you can see, in this like acrylic casing. So it is completely encased. So I couldn't hold it even if I wanted to. But that one is on display in like that frosted glass. We also have a 1652 New England shilling. So it's an example of one of the first coins minted in the colonial United States. It was also from the Parmalee sale. It was a Parmalee plate coin there. And so that is another one that we have on permanent display. So you can see both the NE on one side and the 12 to represent that it was worth a shilling on the other. Also kind of caked in that acrylic, but it is not frosted. Just the $1804 is. I wasn't there when they made the exhibit. I don't know why they chose to do that, but this one is clear. We also have a 1797 capped bust small eagle. So this one, they have 16 stars around Liberty's head. There's 12 on one side and 4 on the other. So it's a little off balance. But that is another one that was chosen to be in the highlights case. I don't know how to pronounce this. I always say DeBosque, but I am ready to be corrected. $5 coin from 1850. So it was minted in California during the gold rush. And it was designed to look like a American, like a federal currency. But if you look in her crown, it says DeBosque instead of Liberty. And so we have 2 of the recent pictures of it. And then also these 2 are from our photo archive collection and were taken in 1931 when they were at the library. So I just thought it was fun that we had pictures of it from then as well. And arguably that black and white one of Liberty's head is better than the one I took. But these, we think it's one of about 3 surviving. A lot of these were melted down for their gold content as opposed to being used as currency since it wasn't federal issue. And then we have a half union copper pattern. It was the largest denomination ever struck by the US Mint. The pictures look so much nicer because it's so much bigger than the other coins. But that one is also highlighted in our valuables case. I'll mention his pattern collection later, but he has a very extensive pattern collection, and that was one of the highlights of it. So now I'll kind of go around the rest of the room and touch a little bit on some of the other sub-collections that are more coinage they're more numismatic as opposed to exonumia. So these are the hard times tokens. So they were private tokens struck during the hard economic times of Jackson and the Van Buren administrations. So we believe this is where his collection started. We think his father, Alexander, and him would pull these out of circulation. None are particularly rare or particularly interesting for researchers in that way, but they are where his collection started. And so they're important to us in that fashion. They're also very New York representative. He also has merchant tokens. So these are tokens that were distributed by specific merchants and shopkeepers to be used in their businesses. So they're not unlike hard times tokens, but these appear to be keepsakes or taken out of circulation. And we typically call this also the business token sub-collection. So these are pretty much our business tokens that aren't from the Civil War. You'll see we have a whole collection of ones that are from the Civil War. The one of these that I usually find the most interesting is this kind of oblong one at the top. It's I believe, an omnibus token from when he took a trip to Philadelphia for an auction. So it's fun that it's a little bit more personal to Byron Reed himself. Then this one on the bottom left is the only one from Nebraska. Though he lived in Nebraska and really helped build Omaha, he didn't collect a lot from Nebraska. And we believe that one, it's from Valentine, that it was probably given to him by the person that made it. It wasn't necessarily collected. As I mentioned, he had a lot of interest in the Civil War, so he has a large sutler token collection. So they were not unlike merchant tokens, but specifically sutlers that were following the troops during the Civil War. So many of them would create their own currency since it was scarce for soldiers to have it at the front lines. And most of this collection was actually purchased from the Joseph N.T. Levitt collection in 1884. And a lot of those Levick had purchased directly from minters. So some of them are a little bit more unique as they weren't necessarily for circulation. They were more just, he had them and could make them. One of the ones that was mentioned in a lot of our documents as being more unique is this Longwell's Prairie Flower. And just a lot of these you don't see a ton of to begin with. So there are some that he has like 7 of the same token, and you don't typically run into that. There's 144 in the collection, and we have about 23 of them on display. Along with, we kind of include in here, we have about a dozen or so Civil War dog tags that he also has in his collection. And some of those are on display in this part as well. And then he has Civil War tokens. Again, more Civil War sub-collections. He was quite interested. So these were privately made tokens, again, to supplement for the lack of actual coinage. So they're similar to business in hard times, but they're specifically about the Civil War, and they weren't from people on the front lines, is usually how I think about it. So some of them are store cards. They were used as currency. Some of them are just tokens with political messages. And he has pieces from both sides. So he has a lot of things that are very pro Jefferson Davis, a lot of things calling for the death of Jefferson Davis. He just collected them as collectibles, not necessarily as his political leanings. Same with his autographs from generals are on both sides of the Civil War as well. Some were clearly taken out of circulation, and others were purchased in that Levick sale. And again, a lot from New York. He was very interested in his home state of New York. And then he has some foreign coins in the collection as well. We have them on display as coinage before the US had its own. So a lot of it is being used in colonial America before the colonies made their own coins. But we also have this going up to the 1900s. We also have some that were added to the collection after his death while it was at the library. So we do have some 20th century foreign coinage as well. But the exhibit focuses on what would have been used in colonial America. And then we have some of those colonial coins. So these were minted by the colonies and then the states prior to the US minting its own in 1793. So some of the ones of note, we have this Chalmers 3d from 1783 that shows the shaking hands, an oak tree 2d from 1662. And then this one that I could not find much information about at all. It's a Union of the Colonies medal, undated. It used to be before 2000 when we kind of had a reassessment done. It was part of our Civil War collection because it says Confederatio. And so I think they were thinking the Confederates, but it's the Confederation of States after the colonies united. I was not able to find a whole lot of information about that one, though. And then the colonial coins is such a large part that it's actually split into 2 cases because we also have our state coinage. So these are some more of our colonial ones. And these coins, you can see a little bit on this one on the bottom left. You can see a little bit that says 81. A lot of these were numbered while they were at the library. They're the only part of the collection that were numbered, but I believe the library did that for cataloging purposes, which is typically how at museums we write numbers on our objects all of the time. We don't on the Byron Reed coins. They are put into coin flips that we then label. So we do not write on the coins themselves. But one of the ones of note here is the silver immune Columbia with 13 stars. It's not supposed to say immune. It's supposed to be, I believe, immunia or something along those lines. It was a misprint, but we have that one on display. And then type coins. So this is one of the larger sub-collections. There's 602 coins. We have 22 on display. And so these are the government issue American coins. So I do not believe he has one for every year. This was also before people started collecting for every year, every denomination, every mint. That wasn't until after his death. So he was not caring about getting them from all of the different mints. But some of the ones that I highlighted here are an 1829 half eagle, 1826 quarter eagle, and then 1804 quarter eagle. And these do only go until 1890 when he passed away. The collection was not added to at the library at all. And then he also has pattern coins. Arguably, it's the kind of most important or highlight of his collection. Many of them were purchased directly from the mint and from auction. He got some others from the Parmalee sale. These are one of two sets of the $5 and $10 gold coins from 1878 in gold. And then the collection also includes 3 more of the $5 in copper and gilt and one $10 in copper. So he collected multiples of things in different mediums. And he has 334 pattern coins, and 14 of them are on display. Actually, it's probably 16. I didn't count the ones in the highlight case. But so the pattern collection is quite extensive. And I've been working with Saul, who runs the US Patterns website, and been trying to take more and more pictures for him to get up on his website. And then the final sub collection we have is the territorial gold. So he has examples from all 4 gold rush periods: Carolina, California, Colorado, and Alaska. And so these were all minted during those gold rush periods, so they aren't necessarily from the mint itself. There are 55 coins, and we have about a dozen of them on display. And those are all of the sub collections. So I'll leave up my information, and then I think we can do the Q&A.
All right, give me just a second to reorient our camera here. All right, so if you are watching online, just click the button at the bottom of your screen that says Q&A. You can send in your questions. We will not be reading off your name, so anything you send in will be anonymous. First, let's open up to the room. Do we have any questions? Yes.
When his business operated, did he operate his real estate business during the Civil War?
Yes, he would have, because he started his real estate business shortly after coming to Omaha in the 1850s. So it would have been in operation during the 1860s as well.
The reason I ask is, he collected Civil War tokens. Did his business issue a Civil War token?
They did not. At least not one that he kept. And I assume he would have, but no, they did not. He was buying up large tracts of land and then selling bits of them, or kind of caretaking land that people had purchased. Some of his presidential signatures are actually from presidents that he was corresponding to for that reason. I believe he has some from Mrs. Grover Cleveland. Her uncle lived in Omaha, and he has a letter from her that's like, hey, if you need to write me again, my new address is at the top. And it was Executive Mansion, Washington, D.C. So he was keeping track of people's land for them during all of that time, including the Civil War.
Okay, and just a heads up for people online, I'm going to take down the screen share after this next question. So if you're writing down an email, do that quickly. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
A quick question. You might have said this and I missed it. The coins that are in storage right now, is there work going on to digitize those, or do they get rotated onto display?
They do not get rotated as often as they should, and we are not currently working to get them online, but that is something we plan to do in the future. Right now, we're kind of focusing on the documents and getting those scanned and put online. We have usually about 1 to 2 interns a semester, as well as some staff members that are working on that. But the plan is to eventually get the coins online as well. That's just not actively being done right now.
Okay. Yes.
One more question.
Yeah.
The documents. Do you have any documents in his collection that you consider illegible, or you don't know who the signature is?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. We have one of the wonderful yet also problematic things with the collection is, since it's been around since 1895, we do have some of the old inventories. So some that we can't read, we can look and say, well, in the 70s, they said it was this person. We can try and kind of fact check that. But we do have some that are in foreign languages that we can't transcribe, and some other ones that we might have the incorrect name on. But most of them, at least that I've run into, we do know who they are. And when we put them up on our website, we also transcribe them so people can see the document themselves, and then also as much of the transcription. There are definitely transcriptions themselves that have illegible pieces of them, but typically we can figure out the signature.
Okay, I think we have a few online.
Yeah, question. Is there any Colorado territorial gold collection?
Yes, there is. And I think it says on there with the question mark Gruber, there is some from Gruber. I believe there's another name with that as well. And if anyone is interested in a specific part of the collection, we do have inventories available for researchers if they want to email me and I can get them in contact or get in contact with them about that. Or I can take pictures or take a look at something if they obviously can't make it to Omaha.
Okay, anything else in the room? I don't see any hands. I think we have another one online.
Yeah, a couple of notes from Saul Teichman. He notes that the Byron Reed patterns are visible on the photo library on the uspatterns.com website, or also the Newman portal has all of Saul's files on the individual patterns in the Judd series. So they're also available on NNP. And then Saul also notes that the last sale that he purchased out of was the April 1891 Dowdy sale. So
thank you, Saul. Also, Saul,
he died in 1890. He probably put his
he died in June of 1891.
Okay.
He was ill for a few weeks before then, so that was probably right around when he was ill. And Saul, I know I owe you one more picture. I will get that to you when I get back to Omaha. I have an email from him pinned on my Outlook right now.
Yeah.
Saul specifically put his name in the question. We didn't spontaneously decide to read someone's name. Okay, I think someone was about to say something. It was you. Okay.
The ANS has the Chapman's business correspondent, and it's likely that Byron Reed is represented in that file.
Okay.
So probably something we should check.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and then we did have a comment in here from Mitch Ernst, who runs the Central States Convention, who wasn't able to be here in person. Just thanking you for making the trip out and taking that time to present.
Thank you,
I
Mitch.
appreciate it.
We wish you could be here.
Yes.
Are the coins, are they mostly gold, silver, a little bit of everything?
A little bit of everything. Not honestly, not a ton of gold outside of the territorial gold. There's definitely some, but most of it I think is more like silver, copper, gilt, things like that. We had Jeff Garrett was in town a couple of weeks ago, and specifically to look at the gold, and there wasn't a ton of gold, so he looked at the other stuff as well. But yeah, outside of the territorial gold, there's not a large amount of gold.
All right. Do we have anything else? Not seeing anything. Something just popped up. Okay. All right. Yes.
I have one last.
Okay.
Yeah, in the patterns, do you know if you have any Goddard Trust patterns?
Not off the top of my head, but I have a booth downstairs on the floor, and I have my laptop with me, so we can take a look.
Okay.
All right. Last call. Not seeing any more. Okay, so that's going to wrap us up. Thank you from us for taking the time to travel out and present. The next presentation we have will also be part of the Nebraska State Showcase. I left my paper on the table.
I believe it is South Omaha Banknotes.
Yes, it is. The National Banks of South Omaha, Nebraska by Derek Higgins, which will be starting at 1:30. So we hope to see you all back here then. All of these presentations are being recorded, and the recordings will be available in about 2 weeks. If you would like to be emailed when those recordings are available, if you're watching online, you can go to our website, and there's a place on the homepage to sign up for emails. If you're here in person, we have a piece of paper back by the plastic cups where you can add your email, and we'll add you to the list that way. Otherwise, I believe that is it for this one. Thank you all so much, and hope to see you all back here at 1:30.
Thank you.